Faith in action can better the world. Beyond believing, many people are driven to actually make change in society. What is it about religion that creates this drive? And what is it about spirituality that cultivates compassion?
Well, first of all, I have to note that this is a dialogue that's just beginning, and there's 100 ways in which this dialogue is complicated, and so I think it's important for us to recognize that we have to move slowly and carefully. Okay, but one of the things I think this is very ambitious. One of the things that the Pope we've told the Pope that we're interested in this, and he's very supportive. Developing housing for homeless families. So right now I'm involved in bringing Catholic groups, Catholic social service groups like the St. Vincent de Paul Society and Catholic Charities on the one hand, together with Buddhist organizations on the other, to pool their resources, start talking to one another, get to know one another, get to understand one another better. And right now we're in the process of reaching out to a organization, a nonprofit, that specializes in working with connecting community groups like ourselves with the federal government and the development with the federal government, the state government, and local city governments as well in developing housing. So I just want to say, hold it. The Pope understands this as well. Believe me, he understands this. This is an enormously complex project, and it's an enormously ambitious project. So we're going to spend a lot of time. We're not. This is not a secular project. This is Buddhists working out of a Buddhist religious motivation. Catholics working out of a Catholic religious motivation. We're going to try to discern how we can cooperate to achieve the same goal, and in the process, I think this is going to be very significant. We're going to learn from one another. I predict that the Buddhists will challenge the Catholics to deepen themselves in their Catholic faith, and Buddhists are already telling me that the Catholics are challenging them to deepen themselves in their Buddhist faith. All of it, like I said a few moments ago, you don't really believe a religious teaching until you see its implications on how you live your life. And that's what we're about right now. It's the beginning of a long process. Let me also say this as well. There are a number of Buddhists here in Los Angeles, and also even more so in the Bay Area, that are very interested in the Pope's new encyclical, Laudato Si, which is on the environment. This is a remarkable document, and what excites me the most about this encyclical letter, this teaching, this papal teaching on the environment, is that the Pope chooses as a foundation for our concern about the environment the age-old teaching of Roman Catholics in regarding social justice. So his environmentalism is very, very much born of the Catholic, or by extension Christian, view of justice. This is a real challenge for Buddhists, because what motivates a Catholic to address the crisis that we have in our environment is not going to be the same thing that motivates a Buddhist. So I'm really excited about the possibility of setting up reading groups, groups of local Catholics, local Buddhists, to read the encyclical together, to discuss it, to try to figure out what are the implications and how they might work together locally in addressing environmental problems. Okay, and once again, I expect a rich exchange here, that the Buddhists are going to show Catholics that there is a way of looking upon the environment in a really Buddhist way that is a benefit, that is a challenge, and ultimately a blessing to the Roman Catholics. And likewise, the Roman Catholics are going to show the Buddhists that there is a Catholic way of responding to the needs of the environment, and that this is, how are we Buddhists? How are we going to embrace this? We don't have to embrace it in the sense like we have to start believing like Catholics do, but how does the Catholic way of working to protect the environment, how does that challenge us Buddhists to think in new ways about our own tradition? This is what the Pope wants, and he calls it a dialogue of fraternity.
Well, social justice does play a major role in Islam because we believe that God is just. And when God is just, He wants to enact justice. And the laws and regulations and guidance that He's given us in the Quran, it actually is to bring about a sense of justice in all fields, and social justice being one of them. So Islam has dealt with the issue of racism and discrimination. It has dealt with the issue of alleviating poverty and empowering people who have not been given opportunities in life. So these type of things are part and parcel of Islam since the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. They're values that are built into the Quran. So social justice is part of the vision and the greater mission of what Muslims are supposed to be doing when they're practicing the religion of Islam. A great example would be the issue of racism. So when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, came into Arabia, the Arabs, like many other people at the time, they were very racist. They were very culturally chauvinistic. They believed that their culture was superior to others. In fact, the word Arab, it means someone who can express themselves or articulate themselves eloquently. And the opposite of an Arab is called an Ajam. And an Ajami is someone who's basically dumb, meaning they can't speak. They can't even articulate themselves. So that's the way they viewed the world. They said these non-Arabs, they can't even speak. They're not even eloquent. They don't even have any language to speak about anything. So it's kind of built into their culture. So they believed that they were superior to other people. Like the Persians also believed that they were superior, and other people believed that they were superior. And when Islam came, the Prophet, peace be upon him, declared in front of 100,000 of his followers during his farewell sermon that no Arab has superiority over a non-Arab, and no light-skinned person has superior over a dark-skinned person. So he just eliminated that immediately, and not just verbally, but he eliminated that through practice. So one of the ways that Islam came to eliminate that was, one, through setting the guidelines that no one has superiority in terms of their race. And secondly, when it comes to prayer, everyone is going to stand together, right? And so everyone's going to stand next to each other. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, you're a king or you're homeless. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white. You're going to stand next to each other. It doesn't matter whether you like the person next to you. You're going to learn to like that person. They're your brother, they're your sister, and you're going to stand next to them. So, I mean, if you look at many religions, even up until today, even in the 20th century, you find that there's a lot of racial divisions. There's a black church, and then there's a white church, and then, that's still going on in many different places. And it's not just cultural, but there's an aspect of religious condonement of those type of things. And Islam kind of uprooted those things. So it's not that they've never been practiced, but the religion itself outlawed those things from the beginning. And then some people who go away from the religion of Islam, they try to bring those things back. But from day one, those things were being uprooted from society by the Prophet, peace be upon him, himself.
Well, I think that Monk talk about Ichantika. Okay, Ichantika. The mean is the whoever step up to the enlightenment or almost attain the final stage, we call Anyuttara Shammakshambhati Bhumika, which is a final stage, which is they're fully enlightened and get a final freedom. Okay, you don't have to write down. This is a very too long. Anyuttara Shammakshambhati Bhumika is a little bit that long. Okay. Whoever near that stage of Anyuttara Shammakshambhati, but we have something that other Buddhist concept as Ichantika, which is someone simply give up to the final stage, but rather back to the secular world, to the helping people. We call the Bodhisattva. Okay, so this is how the Buddhist people always encourage people. At the top stage, attain top stage is important, but more important is become Ichantika, become Bodhisattva, to helping the people and the secular people, and people with a lot of suffering and agonizing or stress. So this is kind of a Mahayana theory, though. Maybe you don't know very much about Buddhism, but we have a very regional, is the Theravada teaching. first 500 years. Then after that is another teaching is coming, which called Mahayana teaching. So this Echantika theory actually basically from the Mahayana tradition. So he more focused on the people rather than final stage. See, so I really like that. A lot of the Mahayana monks say, well, I rather give up. Not this life. I sometime later, next life. But I'm gonna focus on the people right now. This is a more very practical. We call this is a metta, loving kindness. So this is a very good way how to practice Buddhism. Enlightenment is important, but what about people here is more important.
So there's the rights of God and there's the rights of creation. The rights of creation entail all the responsibilities that we have towards human beings, the responsibilities that we have towards animals, the responsibility that we have towards plants and earth and everything that we live on, the entire universe. The most important being our fellow human beings. So the idea of compassion and having concern about our fellow human beings is fulfilling the rights of creation. And this is something that God is actually programmed within us and also ordained or told us to actually fulfill the rights, be just to people, take care of them, treat them nicely, smile at them, all of these different things. So it's part and parcel of the religion of Islam. It's part of the values that are there in the Quran. So compassion plays a very, very important role in the religion of Islam when it comes to dealing with other people. It really shows, when people reflect upon the purpose of the way in which they deal with other people, when you're humble in your beliefs, you're convinced but you're humble at the same time, and you realize that you're wanting goodness for someone else, you're wanting to guide someone else should be channeled through sincerity. And if you're really sincere in what you're doing, you want to speak to that person in a way that's conducive to them accepting your advice, because you believe your own advice to be true. And one of the best ways for them to accept that advice would be if you approach people in a gentle, merciful way, convincing way, rather than in an attacking way. Because when you attack people, you bash them, you try to push something down their throats, immediately they put their shields up and they take offense. Human beings are human beings. Anyone who gets attacked, they go into defensive mode. That's not conducive to you trying to sincerely help that person. So I think guiding people is really about wanting to help them. And if you're trying to help someone, you want to make sure you're giving advice in a way that they're more likely to accept that advice, and that shows the sincerity from your part, from your side.
What do I do when the going gets tough? I do two things, and it seems somewhat contradictory. First, I try to spend more time by myself. That's a way, I'm an introvert, so it's a way for me to recharge my batteries, you might say, okay? But after I've spent more time by myself, it's really important for me to get out there, work with students, work with people in the parish, work with poor people, work with Spanish-speaking people. It's really important for me to connect with people. First, I'm so disgusted with the world, with the church, with me, that I need to pull back and I need to rest. I need to sleep. I need to get back in touch with what's really important, really. And then I need to go out and be with the people, to be with them, to serve the people. Yeah, I think that's what I'm not sure that's a good way to do it, but as a matter of fact, that's what I do when I get burnt out.